After the pouring the foundation concrete and before the concrete is partially cured, the foam system should be kept soily. Curing of concrete in earlier phase is the critical process, especially in case of hot weather concreting and cold weather concreting. Quality degradation would occur, so awareness on early phase of curing is highly required. After the concrete is partially cured, remove the concrete formwork. After the removal, before occurring enough rigidly, further progression on construction is not recommended. After the concrete is solidified with enough rigidly, in order to deliver steel columns, temporarily fenced close to rows should be disassembled. After curing of the foundation, steel columns are delivered into the site. Bottom of steel columns are each wheeled with the base plate prior to delivery. And during erection, base plate should be bolted with anchor bolt embedded to the foundation. Bolting the base plate should help transmission of load through the foundation, anchor bolt, and steel columns. So the base plate would act as joint of the foundation and columns. As anchor bolts are embedded into the foundation, so this prevents movement of columns. Embedding anchor bolt after accurate marking center of steel components is very important. After that, on the anchor bolt, the base plate wheeled with the steel columns would be placed. So, anchor bolts would go through the whole of the base plate. So, anchor bolts stick steel frame and foundation together. Thus, if the anchor bolts are displaced, the base plates on them would be deformed, and deformation of two structural elements would cause deformation on structure above them. So it is highly critical to bolt anchor bolts with steel columns formally. For the rigid connection between steel columns and anchor bolts, bottom end of the anchor bolts can be crooked or usually. An anchor plate is placed under the anchor bolts. The anchor plates are placed underneath the foundation and above the bottom end of the anchor bolts. Fix steel columns, foundation, and anchor bolts in position. Also, during pouring, anchor bolts can be tilted because of the flow of concrete. To prevent the tilting, another anchor plate can be installed at the bottom of the anchor bolt. So, when anchor bolts are buried in prior, base plates can be bolted on this. Note that base plates are not wheeled straight on the foundation. Base plate must be above to the foundation about 3 to 5 cm. And bolting can be proceed. The reason is if the base plates are stick to the foundation, base plate can be tilted during the bolting process. Even the error of the horizontally in both edges is over 1 mm. As upper columns are erected, this can be tilted with greater error from the plan. So leveling on base plate is critical. Therefore, beneath the base plates, film mortar for erecting precise perpendicular columns. And bolting can be progressed. In this case of baseplate, this requires structure bottom and top of it when modeling in Revit. This baseplate is a joint itself, so only when two structural elements are joined, baseplates can be created. Details of steel frame joints would be discussed in further lesson of connection. Now, check the parameter on this baseplate. Baseplate has been modeled with this property, so editing on detail parameter is possible. In detail parameters, first thing to do is code checking. Code checking is the process to check what module would be used and how the setting would be modified. Then determine on baseplate property. You can designate the thickness of the baseplate or other dimension as well. Projection 1 means the distance of endpoint from each steel columns and baseplate. Projection on each part can be designed in this way. And determine the shape of the plate corner. Usually it is not modified, known. And then determine anchors and holes. In this category, size and type of anchor bolt is highly important. Anchor bolt is the connector of structure members of top and bottom, so a very heavy load is always transmitted to it. The anchor bolt supports load when construction work is finished as well, but the load would be increased during the period from the temporary bolting to permanent bolting during construction. Because of continuing loads, anchor bolts are frequently damaged. In this reason, proper selection of baseplate thickness and diameter, type, and quality of anchor is required. That is why there are a lot of types of anchor bolts. Then determine the diameter of anchor bolts by selecting anchor type. Set the anchor grade and anchor length can be also designed. So setting on anchor bolts and holes are done, and it is possible to determine the existence of washer plate and also determine on anchor parallel web and anchor's parallel flange. You can also modify the number of welding points on the baseplate with steel column. After setting on the welding points and weld type, you would set the leveling plates, and the leveling plates act as mortar. Determine the existence of leveling plates for leveling the base plate above it, and modify other factor, shin plate, shear anchor dimension in order to meet the requirement of the construction pace in this model. After the base plates are properly bolted using anchor bolts, load from structure above can transmit it to the foundation well.